Hello and welcome back to another Gunpla review. Today we'll be taking a look at the... Wow, that's a lot of words. Alright, let's go through the full name, shall we? ZGMF-X4-2S-Revolution Destiny Gundam, in parentheses, Heine Westenfluss Custom. Yeah, the Heine Destiny. Let's go with that. I'm just going to be blunt. I absolutely love this mobile suit and this kit. Well, it was my first kit, but aside from that, the design is actually really good and the articulation is, well, you'll see. But because this was my first kit, you're going to see a few mistakes here and there that won't be on your kit, hopefully. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the articulation, shall we? Focus. There we go. Alright, starting on the usable range of articulation for the Destiny. It can't really look back at all, which is annoying given it's a massive sword, but it can look quite far down. Very far down, in fact. Full 360 with the head, and pretty good side to side too for focus. There we go. More expressive posing, which is great. The shoulders have a unique system where the polycap is actually inside the shoulder itself, and it uses, if I can get it out, a swivel into a ball joint into the socket in the actual shoulder, instead of usually it's the ball joint goes into the socket in the chest. And this allows for an incredible range despite how bulky the upper half of the shoulder armor is. This is completely solid, yet it can still, if you really go for it, can reach basically directly up in the air. Obviously a swivel at the upper arm. An incredible... It's a little bit unwieldy because the wings, even folded, are pretty wide, so it keeps hitting against the desk. A really good bend at the elbow, and as usual, the hands are in a ball joint, which don't really collapse in any further, so you kind of get a bit of a thin wrist there, but it's fine. It just means that they get really good range. Moving on to the torso, and it is actually quite impressive. I don't know how well I can show this because of the wings, and I'm not going to be taking them off because it's kind of a pain, but the upper red section in the chest actually moves forward, and then the lower section also comes in, so you end up getting so much forward lean, it's ridiculous. And then also the ball joint in the waist, which, by the way, on mine was pretty tight, and since it's two halves of plastic sandwiched together for the ball joint, it actually ended up putting a couple stress marks in there, but a little bit of lubrication and it was alright. It's completely fine now. If anything, it's a little bit too loose. Also, the waist can be collapsed slightly further for more stability, or it can be pulled out slightly for a wider range. Not sure if that's intentional, but it is an option. As usual, the front skirts are on ball joints. They do kind of bang against the orange central piece, so if you want to have it like that, you have to lift it up and then twist the torso over on top of it. Not a big deal, but yeah, it does rub up against it a little bit. They do come connected, but I always split mine. This is on a polycap hinge and also a peg, so it's able to be moved out of the way, which is useful for the spread. Back skirt is solid, which is standard for high grades, so no surprise there. The hips are actually fairly standard, honestly. It's just a peg. There is a system that is supposed to shift up and down, but I found that it's completely stuck. Could just be mine. So I just popped the back skirt off and moved it down to the lower position. And honestly, given how almost comically long the hip skirts are on the Destiny, it looks completely fine even with it down. So honestly, my recommendation is just leave it down. It allows 90 degrees forward, slightly further actually if you bend the knee. Oh boy. These wings are kind of unwieldy to review with, but it's fine on a shelf. Back that far because of the static back skirt, but that's not a big deal. And if you move these out of the way, you can get full splits with the legs, which is good. Of course, you get a rotation at the upper thigh, and if you move it slightly, you can get a full 360. Don't want to do that too much. Might loosen it up on mine. You get a very nice double joint at that knee. And it doesn't look bad from the front either, which is good. If you half bend it, it does look a little broken, but full bend looks fine. I recommend using the upper joint before using the lower one, because otherwise it kind of breaks the look of the leg. Of course, the leg thruster, which I just realized I never actually colored in. I should probably use my Gundam marker to do that, but it does get a slight amount of movement. The ankles, as you can actually see here, are on a hinge because of a polycap. This is attached onto the ankle piece, so it's separate from the foot. The foot is on a ball joint, and also there is a hinge in the toe for aerial poses to have the foot pointing straight down. And onto the backpack. Well, the wings. This back thruster has a very good range. If you move it up, it does kind of show how empty it is down there, but it's fine. The wings are on a swivel and a hinge, and then also a second hinge in here somewhere. It doesn't really matter. You can't get a lot of movement out of them anyway. The most you get is the hinge forward and back. That doesn't really do anything. This doesn't really do anything. And of course you can unfold them, and we'll get into that once I get into the accessories. But also something to point out is this up here is a ball joint, and this stay is a hinge, and it sort of soft locks. If I can pull it up, you see that nub that locks into a little divot on the arm, and so when it goes down, it actually locks into place, which is nice. And of course, both of these are hinged, but again, we'll get into that when we get into accessories. So yeah, this is an absolutely insanely articulated kit. Oh, also there is a rotation here on the polycap, but you can feel that it kind of clicks into place here, so I'm not sure how much you should rotate that. It might damage something. If you really want to get a pose with the arm tilted slightly more, that's probably fine, but yeah. Anyway, on to the accessories, and frankly, the Destiny Gundam has a stupid amount of accessories. Not only do you get a beam rifle and a collapsible shield, You also get a second shield, a second rifle, and a massive two-handed beam sword. Not to mention all the beam effects you get. Anyway, starting off with probably the most boring of the accessories, the beam rifle. I did paint these in. Normally it's just flat gray plastic. Fairly standard, movable secondary handle, movable camera. It can just fit in, let me just grab a hand off him. It can just fit in the hand like that. As well, it can get the Destiny back in here and make sure the wings aren't in the way. Okay, that hole right there. There is a peg on the beam rifle that allows it to be stored, if I can line it up, on the back, which is always nice because a lot of the time they don't include weapon storage for beam rifles. Let's get that off. Next up is the collapsible shield, which is quite nice. Probably could have painted or at least panel lined the inside, but whatever. It opens up very slightly, exposing a bit of red. Orange red. It's more red than orange, but it has a slightly yellow tint. And this can peg on either of the arms. There's two holes. They can move the arm out, just pop it on, it's perfectly fine. Clamps it down, take it off again. The hole on this arm is starting to get a little bit loose since this is the one I always put it on, so keep that in mind. I mean, it's not going to fall out or anything, but yet, anyway. Next up, we have the two hands with the palm beam cannons and the beam effect. This is a very thin peg, and it kind of worries me because this is a hard plastic. So be careful with that. Don't really know. Well, I suppose they didn't want this to be a soft plastic, but then again, they did that with the F91, so whatever. Actually, none of the translucent plastic on this is soft plastic. It's all brittle plastic, so be careful with that. But this looks very nice from the front. Okay from the side. And it can be rotated whatever direction you want it to be. Let's just take that out very gently and put it over there. You may notice that these hands are empty and don't have the shield emitters on them, and that's because you only get two. And you have to keep swapping back and forth between the hands, which is annoying considering how small they are. They easily could have included four, especially since they're also very small, so they're easy to lose. But I digress. If you want to put on the beam shield, you take one of these off. Oh boy. Slot it into other way. Slide it in. Oh boy, this is finicky with only one. There we go. And it's in. Then you just, again, other way. Should have expected that. It's longer on this side. Just plug that in. Kind of still sticks off a little bit, but doesn't really hold on very well. But yeah, that there we go. Also, this I should mention, this is the exact same mold as the standard Destiny, but the colors are different, and not just the obvious color like the orange instead of the blue. The red is actually a different shade of red, and I mean, of course, the translucent orange is translucent pink on the standard Destiny. per se. I actually kind of prefer the orange, at least for the parts that we'll get into in a moment. Let's start off with this. These spikes on the shoulders come off, and the shoulders actually still look pretty good without them. So if you wanted to do a custom without these, you could totally do that. And these small beam effect parts, turn these into beam boomerangs. Now these are supposed to also be able to be used as full-on beam sabers, but it doesn't come with an effect part for that. And also, I'm not really sure what beam saber parts have a rectangular peg like this at this size. Maybe one of the square beam sabers, especially trying to get it in pink that matches the standard Destiny or the fluorescent orange of the Heine Destiny. Yeah, good luck with that, but honestly, without the beam saber effect part, these are kind of weak. And unless you're specifically using it for a shot against another mobile suit, I can't really see people using them that much. I certainly don't use them, especially when we have... Let's just put that back in. The massive collapsible beam sword. I don't really want to call this a beam saber because it's not. Other way. You can tell because this side is slightly slanted that way and the bulb down on this side is larger. Or you could just remember this slanted piece, but whatever. And this alone is probably half the reason I love the Destiny so much. This is one of the best beam saber sword designs in all of Gundam. You do have to paint the handle, but whatever. I mean, it comes with stickers for these. I mean, I painted it, but this looks so good. And the fact that it has the proper moving parts for a high grade, excellent. Excellent sword design. And it is big enough, and the Destiny actually has the dexterity enough to be able to hold it properly with two hands in a good action pose. I'm not going to waste the time to do that now, but believe me, it can. Also, if you remove the beam effect and collapse the sword again, collapse these first. But anyway, as you saw earlier, these are for storing, and you put the two little tabs on the side into... I realize I'm kind of going over here. Into those, and you just... And seriously, can you focus? There we go. Yeah, you can see the two tabs here with this tab, and it just slides in there. And the great thing about this Destiny is it can actually, if you move this up, oh, that was out of frame, move this up. Be careful with the V-fin, but you can actually move this up over the shoulder, and you can get the hand up and actually have it holding the sword as it's about to be deployed. And you can actually pull it out of this accurately, which is neat, because the real grade at least had a weird slot system where it like went in and then down, or down and in, or whatever. I don't know, I'm not a fan of how the real grade looks anyway, so I don't plan on getting it, but anyway. Moving on to the last accessory that's not the effect parts. The massive railgun. I think it's a railgun anyway. Now you can obviously see This is not molded detail. This is a mistake I made. Don't worry about that. But you may be noticing there's only a single handle on the side. By the way, you will have to paint the red. But again, these are have stickers, but I painted it. It actually sits on this side and swings. If I can get the wing out of the way, and this out of the way. And honestly, this is kind of annoying to do, but fold this in too. You can get this up underneath the wing and fold this out and fold this down, and then you can finagle a hand onto this, and I'm not going to bother because it is kind of a pain, but you can do it. And let's get on to the part that I actually want to talk about. The wings of light. These massive pieces of brittle plastic, which get very thin at points and genuinely kind of concern me, but well, hopefully it doesn't explode at some point. You just kind of have to wiggle this in around. Make sure that all of these nubs, the two here, one here, and that these go inside of the wings. And you're going to want this one to go on that side, and this one to go on that side, and these two to stay on this side. And then slide it in around. And it does get kind of annoying. Oh boy. And kind of scary. I can't really do this on camera, honestly. It's a lot of finagling to get it to go in properly. Give me a minute, actually. There's one side. Oh, I should mention the little tabs are actually reversed. Now, I don't think it actually matters which side you put which one on, but they aren't exactly the same. And there's two. And let's just tilt the camera back. One moment. There we go. Now I can actually show these off properly. And this wingspan is amazing. For a high grade, this is a really wide wingspan. I mean, completely trumps the cut pad that I use for scale, which I'll get into in a bit. These wings are massive and beautiful, and honestly, a little bit of paint, maybe some translucent yellow or translucent red to really bring out the molding of these would look amazing. And I actually prefer the orange of the Heine because it kind of makes me think of flame wings more than wings of light. And anything that doesn't remind me of Seed is definitely a good thing. As much as I absolutely love the Seed designs, yeah, let's not get into the show. But these wings are such a central point to this figure that if you're not displaying the figure with the wings of light activated, I don't even recommend getting the figure. Like, seriously, get a stand. This is a Tamashii Nation Act 5. About $10 for two. Canadian. I get mine at Big Bad Toy Store. Don't take them all before I can buy more, please. If you didn't see it earlier, it does have a 3mm port up underneath. But moving on, getting into the size comparison, and obviously I'm doing it with the wings out because that's how you're going to be displaying it, right? And also it's so much bigger with the wings out that I kind of have to. Yeah, it's about average height for a mobile suit, but, well, actually it's a bit tall, but yeah, this thing is, wow, these wings. It makes the mobile suit like 4 times wider and 2 heads taller at the tips if you have them flared up. It's absolutely massive. Anyway, to wrap this review up, if you can get this kit, buy it. I adore this kit so much. The part separation is excellent. The the design, wow, I love the Destiny, the Heine Destiny anyway. The regular one, but the orange really makes it come into its own. But the articulation is, I mean, modern high grade, which is basically master grade, and the accessories. I mean, it's the Destiny. The only drawback really is that it doesn't come with beam saber effects for the beam boomerangs, but honestly, with the massive two-handed sword, who cares? But let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked this review, make sure to like the video. Helps with the algorithm. Subscribe for future reviews. Also watch my backlog. And most importantly, please share this video. But anyway, that's been all for this time. And until next time, happy building.